Hello everyone. This is my hypothesis on the existence of satellites. Many people in the flat earth community claim that satellites don't exist because of the mainstream narrative, which claims that tens of thousands of satellites are orbiting the globe and they travel through the thermosphere to get into their orbits. Every person that is awake to the flat earth truth knows that there is no globe to begin with. There is no thermosphere and satellites could not survive the supposed temperatures of the thermosphere anyway. Their components would simply melt. The existence of satellites has been a topic of discussion for a long time now. I'm not arguing the fact that communication is also being done between continents through cables on the bottom of the ocean. I do believe that satellites do exist within this flat plane. I will explain my opinion on it, even if it sounds really crazy. Just hear me out. I think that satellites are being launched with rockets as we see, but they are being literally hooked and anchored into the dome. I think that they are being pinned into the dome with a relatively low-tech hooking device. I am aware that it sounds crazy, but I believe that such a primitive sounding way of hooking and anchoring them up into the dome is a very effective way of doing it. In fact, I believe that it could very well be the only possible way. I know that it is far-fetched, but let's ask ourselves a few questions and see if the hypothesis I have could actually be a real possibility. How would the satellite be physically hooked into the dome? Well, to do that, the satellite needs to be placed in the nose of the rocket with a spear-like hook pointing upwards. The rockets are equipped with proximity sensors and their speed is regulated by onboard computers. When the rocket has almost approached the dome, the nose cap of the rocket will be ejected and the hook of the satellites will be the hardware that sticks out. The speed of the rocket will be slowed down by the onboard computers, a gentle bump will follow, and the hook of the satellite will penetrate the dome and will be anchored in it. Making contact with the relatively tight and yet flexible surface of the dome will also automatically switch off the propulsion of the rocket and the rocket will start to fall down back to Earth, but the satellite will remain hooked and anchored into the dome. This must have been done 1,000 times now, and the people involved know what they're doing. I'm sure that missions have failed in the past, but much can be learned from such failures. So what are the steel spheres, or the so-called space balls, which are falling from the sky all over the world? I think they are tanks which contain acid, similar kind of acid that we see in car batteries. The solar panels of the satellite, which will be deployed after its anchoring, provide the electricity and it is being stored in those steel spheres which are full with acid. The electricity is being accumulated during the day so that all the instruments can also function during the night. When a satellite breaks down due to its lifespan or because of other technicality, it is being unhooked and it falls down to Earth. The unhooking could be done by the adding of an unhooking mechanism to the satellite for the sole purpose of unhooking it when it is decommissioned. Now, why is it so important to unhook them? Why not just leave them up there? There are dozens of countries that have their own weather, communication and military satellites. There is also a great number of satellites required to have a worldwide coverage. My point is that there are thousands of satellites hooked into the dome at any given time, so if a launch of a new satellite doesn't hit a free surface area in the dome, but instead hits an old and decommissioned satellite that is still anchored into the dome, the entire launch would be a complete failure. The hooking up of newly launched satellites needs to be done right the first time. They only got one shot at succeeding. The chance of hitting an older satellite may be small, but it is still one more chance for the mission to fail. That is why the decommissioned satellites need to be unhooked so that they could drop and fall back down. Many of the objects that we see falling from the sky and burning on their way down could be decommissioned satellites, which were unhooked from the dome. After being unhooked, the satellite starts to descend from an altitude of a few thousand kilometers. It will gain great speed from the free fall, and when it hits the denser layer of air, which starts at around 30 or 40 kilometers, they will ignite due to the friction. The only component that can survive the great temperatures is the massive steel sphere. The acid within it would be vaporized long before it hits the ground. None of the other instruments will survive either. So what about our creator entities, our gods, the owners of this place? Why do they allow for all those satellites to be hooked into the dome? Well, the dome was designed and built in a way that it is able to take a punch. Think of Operation Dominic during the 1960s. So, piercing a few thousand hooks into the dome would be like pinning a few thousand wooden poles into the ground. The damage is negligible and not worth mentioning. We should also keep in mind that our watchful creators know exactly what kind of technology is being moved around within the perimeters of this terrarium-shaped world. They are more than able to recognize potential dangers. This was my hypothesis about satellites. It sounds even far-fetched to me, yet I consider it a possibility, otherwise I wouldn't have made a video about it. I could be wrong, but I really think that hundreds, if not thousands of satellites remain hooked up and anchored into the dome as we speak. I think that satellites are literally hanging from the ceiling. Thanks for watching. Please share, like and comment to let me know what you think of it. Be well. Bye.